Good morning, Beatles fans. It's about 5 a.m. on November 25th, 2021. It's Thanksgiving Day here in the United States. And it's also the day when the first episode of the Beatles Get Back premieres. Dropped about 2 hours ago here in the East Coast. And I'm going to watch it. It's time for tea and meet the wife. Or rather, coffee and get back. It's time for day 2. Well, it's been a long 3 days. A lot has happened. I've transitioned from Thanksgiving to the Christmas holiday, and I've managed to watch the entirety of Get Back. I was not disappointed. I just finished watching it right this moment. Going to take a few minutes, kind of regroup, get my thoughts together, and I have no idea how this video is going to shape up, but I'm going to put something together and put it out this weekend. I may have just ripped off John Heaton there. Apologize. No, it's my little homage, I suppose. Good channel, by the way. So, I've watched all of Get Back. For the past 3 days, I've been trying to figure out how to do a video on this. It's not really in my wheelhouse. I don't do a lot of reviews, quite frankly, because I don't feel my opinion's any better than yours. These things are very subjective, and you're either going to agree with me or you're not. But I just feel that this is too important a release to ignore. So I wanted to acknowledge it in some small way. I hope this video is enjoyable for you to watch. I'm not going to do a lot of fancy editing or cuts or anything like that. I will edit out any stammering and kind of edit my speech here to make it a little more enjoyable to watch. But other than that, just going to let it roll. I figured that the best way to present this is as if you and I are two Beatles fans just discussing having watched Get Back over a pint. So cheers to you, and let's begin. So I've jotted down a few notes, nothing extensive, just a few things that stood out to me that I'd like to discuss. This is a very, very long presentation. It's over 6 hours, and I've only watched it once, so it's very difficult to really dissect this in a short video. I will probably watch this again from start to finish, but that's going to require a day I can do that. There are not too many days I have free just to watch 6 to 9 hours of TV in a row. So that'll be maybe over the holiday break between Christmas and New Year's. We'll see. I did overall really enjoy this presentation. If you have not seen it, it's definitely worth watching. I'm sure that it will be released in some other form other than streaming on Disney+. For now, you have to have Disney+ to view Get Back, but I think that will change in time. Part 1. Part 1 of Get Back covers days 1 through 7 of the filming. Now, this is really fascinating that over 22 days, the Beatles went from having nothing to what's presented pretty much on the Let It Be album. There were some songs that were already in the works, and the Beatles came to the sessions with some song ideas and things, but you really see them develop in the course of this docuseries. There's a really striking opening scene after a little bit of history of the Beatles where there's just an empty soundstage with a stagehand sweeping up. And I thought that was very symbolic, I'm sure very intentional on Peter Jackson's part, of just showing that you are starting with nothing, absolutely nothing coming in, and by the time we get to the end, there's going to be something. It reminds me of a recent interview Paul McCartney was doing. He was promoting his new lyrics books, and he talked about songwriting being pulling something out of a black hole, like starting the start of the process being a black hole and going from nothing to having a song. And he really couldn't quite describe how he does it, but he just used that analogy of black hole several times, and I hadn't heard him discuss songwriting in that way before. I thought that was really interesting. So this is how Get Back starts, with an empty sound stage, stagehand sweeping up, and as we go on, the void begins to fill. I'm really happy to have received the Get Back companion book to the film. Now that I've seen the whole docuseries, the book is really something special to have, and it really follows a similar format to the way the docuseries goes. You get 3 parts in the docuseries. There are 3 acts in here. Part 1 of the docuseries and Act 1 of the book cover the first days at Twickenham Film Studio. This is interesting footage, but probably the slowest of the 3 episodes. By the way, I apologize for the background noise. There's going to be blowers going on. I mean, it's autumn. The blowers are going almost constantly. What was I saying? Oh, yeah. Part 1, I found the least interesting now that I've watched all 3 parts, but definitely it is a slow burn build-up to the following 2 episodes, and there is some drama. I'm not going to spoil it if you haven't watched it. Historically, this is all well documented what happens, so I'm sure you can figure it out, but I won't really say anything right here. Watch it. It starts off really well, it ends solid, and it's interesting just to see. The footage looks beautiful, the sound is great, and it's just very intimate, very interesting to be, not to sound cliche here, but a fly on the wall in these Beatles sessions. It was a very emotional experience, and I've commented this back and forth with some other fans that it really was an emotional experience for many of us. So it may have been the same for you to see these things and just to recognize that this is over 50 years old, these events, and they felt like they were just happening and we were part of them. So that was a very special experience. Part 2 covers days 8 through 16, the final days at Twickenham, and the move to Savile Row, Apple Studios, and there's some humor in it. There is some additional drama. This is where, if you've seen some of the film clips, Paul makes a comment that in 50 years' time, people will be talking about the Beatles breaking up because Yoko sat on an amp, which is a funny comment, I thought. There's a fascinating conversation between John and Paul where they leave Twickenham Studio, they go to the cafeteria, they think they're having a private conversation, but there was a mic in the flowers. Essentially, the table was bugged, and John and Paul are having a conversation, and there's no video to this, but it's transcribed as you're hearing it. And I just thought it was really fascinating how John and Paul are talking about the situation with George having left the band, and there's really not a lot of negativity towards it. In the first episode, George kind of seems overlooked. You can see why George would be frustrated or felt left out. Ringo is just kind of there. He gets along with everybody, kind of just goes with the flow. John and Paul still seem to be getting on really well, and George is kind of on the outskirts here a little bit. I don't want to say there's not a lot of support for his songs, but it's just John and Paul are getting on and discussing their songs. George is somewhat disinterested, trying to find his place in this setup, and he doesn't quite get there while they're at Twickenham, and this causes him a lot of frustration. And it's easy to see, so the part 1 does a good job of that. But going back to the conversation, when John and Paul are discussing the situation with George, they're doing it with such grace and giving George credit, saying that he's right about certain things, and there's just not a lot of negativity. There's not any negativity there. It's really very positive, the way they're speaking about it, very loving. I mean, these guys definitely really cared about each other. Part 2 also sees Billy Preston arrive on the scene. This has got to be some of the best footage, the rooftop concert notwithstanding, is the footage where Billy Preston is there. He's playing. This guy is a top-notch musician, and he really forces the Beatles to get on their game. They're already more comfortable being at Apple Studios. Once they move there, you could tell they feel a lot more at home. There's comments made about it. So it's very obvious that Twickenham was kind of a cold, too large. They didn't really settle in there. Once they moved to Apple, they started to settle in with each other. Once Billy Preston came on, they really hit their stride. And he added a tremendous positive energy to the Beatles and to the song performances, to the rehearsals that really shaped the songs. That was really brilliant to see. Again, the bits with Billy Preston, fantastic. Another poignant moment for me that really stood out was a moment where John and Paul are working out harmonies for Two of Us. And just to really hear their voices together and them working on that was another very moving scene. So while part 2 covered days 8 through 16, part 3 covers days 17 through 22. Now think of that. That's in about 3 weeks. The Beatles went from empty soundstage to some really well-crafted songs. Part 3 has a scene with George working with Ringo on Octopus's Garden, and there's a little clip of this on the Super Deluxe box set. But to see a longer representation of that, you could see the friendship between George and Ringo, and the way George really was encouraging Ringo and helping him out with the song, which of course would wind up on Abbey Road. The funniest moment of all 3 parts, and I don't mean to be lowbrow here, but I gotta take a shot at Yoko. I'm sorry. Love her. Love Yoko. Great. And by the way, just doubling back for a minute, another indication that Paul McCartney is just a wonderful human being. He has a section in there when he's talking about John and Yoko, and how I've heard him talk about this in more recent days, but I always thought maybe he was kind of revising history and maybe being a little softer than he actually was at the time. But he was very, very supportive of John, and John having Yoko there and understanding, and that comes through. It's just these guys, apart from being great musicians, wonderful songwriters, having provided us this music that has endured for the past 50 years, they're just pretty damn decent human beings. Now, getting back to the funniest moment, there is a moment where Yoko is doing her Yoko thing, and Linda Eastman's young daughter is there, and as Yoko is screeching away, there is a cut to the facial expression on the little girl, which is priceless. Funniest moment of all the parts. Another fascinating thing about all of these parts is getting to see the interaction with all of those players in the Beatles camp who were so instrumental to what they were doing, but you don't really get a sense of that. You listen to the music, it's John, Paul, George, and Ringo. And of course, George Martin is well known for his production, but seeing him in the video was really a treat. Seeing Mal Evans, I've read a lot about Mal Evans, you hear a lot about him, but seeing him and the genuine care he had for the Beatles and how much he was enjoying himself. There's no greater goal in life than to strive to be as happy as Mal Evans banging away at an anvil. It was also interesting to see Glenn Johns. There's a lot of Glenn Johns in here, and to see his interaction and his part in Let It Be was also a fascinating experience. So moving right along, I know I'm kind of rambling here. I apologize. I'm sure this is not the best video you could see on this. I haven't watched anybody else's videos. I didn't want to be biased. I have all these things in my head, things I've thought about before filming this that I wanted to say. I didn't quite say them. There's just too much to say. I'm so overwhelmed by just the excitement of finally seeing this footage, and there's just so much of it. I don't even know where to start, and I didn't take much time here to organize my thoughts. I probably should have, and maybe could have made a better video, but with it being the Thanksgiving holiday and Black Friday, and I'm going to a Giants football game tomorrow, and just a lot going on. So I wanted to acknowledge this moment in real time without too much time passing, but I have so much in my head and so much in my heart about this situation, about seeing this, that I don't know how to express it properly. It's beyond the beyond. I wrote down in my notes about the rooftop concert one word: wow. I haven't really seen the original Let It Be movie too many times, I'm embarrassed to say. I didn't want a crappy bootleg copy of it. I don't have it on VHS or anything. I've only seen it a handful of times, so I don't remember what the actual footage of the rooftop concert is in the Let It Be movie. I'm hoping that a restored version of that film comes out, because I would love to watch a good quality version of it and see how that compares to this Get Back docuseries. But the rooftop concert was amazing. I mean, Peter Jackson did a fantastic job of it. I was very impressed by the multiple angles that were presented, almost like a kind of a Woodstock type presentation with the 2 or 3 angles at a time being shown. The sound, fantastic. The wait for the rooftop concert is well worth it. I also loved the different aspects you got as the concert was going on. You're seeing it from the rooftop, you're seeing it from the street, and you're seeing it from the reception office, where you have the police officers coming in, you have people coming in to complain. It's just really fascinating to see it. There are times when there's speaking over the music. It works. I'm hoping that there is some kind of recording released of the complete rooftop concert. I mean, it's not all that comprehensive. They didn't do that many songs. They performed a few songs multiple times. So I don't know if they'll just from start to end release it, but it would be nice to have those songs uninterrupted in the greatest quality possible. I hope that some kind of soundtrack to this docuseries is released with the rooftop concert included. Another thing that I really loved about the docuseries is that as the parts progress, if there is a take that is captured on film that was used on the Let It Be album, it's indicated on the screen. I thought that was really great, and it was so fascinating to see the Beatles performing those songs that I've lived with for so many years. To see them performing those things and get a visual that has only been in my head for all these years was, I can't even describe how I felt about that, but I just thought that was something that I really loved about this movie, was that it was indicated which takes were used on the Let It Be album. I've rambled on now for I don't know how long. I don't know if this is even cohesive. I will try to make something out of this and provide a watchable video. I would love to hear from you. Please comment below. Again, we're a couple of Beatles fans swapping our opinions on this new Get Back movie over a pint. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Cheers. 22 days. Nothing to something that has endured for decades, for half of a century, and beyond, will continue to endure. These guys were amazing. They could have presented songs they already did. The original intention of the TV special was to perform songs from the last album, which would have been the White Album, but they chose to start with a clean slate and create something. And the fact that we have all this footage, all this documentation of that process, it's at the end of their career that they've kind of gotten to doing all they could do. It would have been amazing if we had similar footage for something like Sgt. Pepper or Revolver, or even maybe for Abbey Road. But I think it captures the moment so spectacularly that you just have to take it in. Take it in, enjoy it. Am I going to watch it over and over and over again? Probably not. It was an event to enjoy over these last 3 nights. Again, I will probably watch it a couple more times, maybe once all the way through. If it's released, which I'm expecting it should be on Blu-ray at some point, I will definitely pick that up and probably watch it once or twice on there. But I don't think this is something I'm going to watch dozens and dozens of times the way I have with A Hard Day's Night or Help or Yellow Submarine. But I definitely enjoyed watching it, will enjoy watching it a few more times, and it was a very special experience. So that's all I can say about this. I don't know what else to say other than I'm very happy to have gotten to experience this, and I'm not disappointed.